Teddy, thank you for those kind words. I think it's true when a Roosevelt says you're on the right track concerning the environment. What more praise do you need? Now, I've had the distinction, as you may know, of belonging to both major political parties in this country. And I can honestly say how much I admire Republicans named Teddy, as well as Democrats named Eleanor and Franklin. But I've got to admit I have a soft spot in my heart for another Roosevelt, Teddy's daughter Alice, because it was Alice who said to a guest at a dinner party, "If you can't say something good about someone, then just come and sit right here by me." Political affiliations may change, but good advice like that never goes out of style. You were talking about making some tough decisions. I can only tell you, if you really want a character-building experience, what you have to do is close half a dozen firehouses that we didn't need, raise property taxes 18% because we had to pay our firefighters and police officers and teachers, and we needed the money, and put a smoking ban in and do it all in the same year. If after that you can do a parade on Staten Island, let me tell you, you can do anything. Not saying something good about somebody is not the problem here, because I have nothing but good things to say about the RPA, and especially about your focus on creating a bright green future for our fast-growing metropolitan area. And today I want to talk about the heart of this region, our magnificent city, which has endured so much and which has come so far. These are truly remarkable, hopeful times for New York City. It seems that each day our city, whose future seemed doubtful to many people not very long ago, we forget quickly. It seems every day we pass another major milestone. We've reduced crime and unemployment to all-time lows, and we have brought our bond rating to an all-time high. Student test scores, as Teddy mentioned, and our graduation rates are continuing to rise. And maybe most importantly, for the first time in more than 60 years, New Yorkers, on average, are living longer than people in the rest of the United States. So if you live anyplace else and you want to live longer, move to New York City, go out on our streets. Statistically, it's guaranteed. And perhaps most remarkably for a city that 6 years ago, after the terrible tragedy of 9/11, conventional wisdom was nobody was going to want to live here. Today, there are more New Yorkers than at any time in our history. Something like 8.2 million people live here today. Now, our population is expected to continue to soar and to reach 9 million people by the year 2030. Nearly 1 million more New Yorkers, along with millions of visitors each year, will add to our dazzling vibrancy and diversity. We can also expect up to 750,000 new jobs in our city. It's a tremendous economic opportunity across the entire region. But only will this be true if we act wisely now. We have to begin to manage the growth that we can see coming, because if we don't act now, that growth will be paralyzing, straining our infrastructure and endangering an already embattled environment. We could face parks bursting at the seams, air and water dirtier and more polluted than it is today, and streets and highways jammed with ever more traffic, a subject I want to come back to shortly. And creating a bright green future for our city and our region is going to demand the kind of long-term solutions that RPA has pioneered since its founding back in 1929. Well, some 2.5 years remain in our, 2.5 years remain in our administration. I think it's 972 days, but who's counting? You should know that we have no intention of just watching the sands fall through the hourglass in our second term. We're not going to allow the obstacles that we can see looming in our future to become rooted in place. That's not what leadership is all about. Instead, we plan to use those remaining days to put New York on course to become the nation's first truly sustainable 21st century city. To guide us, we launched Plan YC, our process for shaping New York's growth between now and the year 2030. To develop Plan YC, we established the city's Office of Long-Term Planning and Stability and named as its director someone that some of you heard from in a workshop earlier today, and someone I am confident that all New Yorkers will be hearing a lot from in the years to come, Rit Aggarwala. Where are you, Rit? I saw you here before, sitting around here hiding in plain sight, right there. We've also named a Sustainability Advisory Board of leaders from the private sector, from organized labor, from academia, from environmental organizations, and also grassroots community groups. And of course, from the RPA as well, and I want to thank Bob Yarrow for all of his hard work, and thank you for having me for lunch. Only had a roll, but that's okay. Now, this book is what the committee produced. It is available in printed form, also available as a DVD, and we'd be happy to send it to you if you want it. Where do you go? Call 311. This is a blueprint, or should I say a green print, for building a greener, greater New York City. There are 127 detailed initiatives in the report, far more than I can even begin to summarize today. So let me simply say that Plan YC speaks directly to the major elements of RPA's agenda: promoting transit-oriented housing development, preserving and enhancing the open spaces that not only protect our watershed but also enrich our lives, encouraging energy conservation and the development of green power, and dramatically reducing the greenhouse gases that contribute to the global warming that threaten our region with rising sea levels and intensifying coastal storms. In researching Plan YC, we found that New York is in many ways already a green apple, a model of energy efficiency and environmentally sound design, but we also recognize that there's a lot of room for improvement. And we also saw clearly that the time for planning is over, and the time for action is now, literally in the next few weeks, to get this going. And that's especially true when it comes to transportation. Over the years, the RPA has played a leading role in shaping our city's great transportation system, and we're very confident that one of RPA's directors, Jeanette Sadiq Khan, will continue to continue that proud tradition. She has been appointed as our city's new transportation commissioner. Jeanette, I don't want to put any pressure on you, but I was just kibitzing with Lee Sanders here. He could come back, you know. I mean, Iris Weinshall isn't that far away. Don't screw it up. That's from building the Erie Canal to constructing our subway system, key transportation projects have fueled New York's phenomenal growth, as you all know. But there have been some less inspiring moments in our history as well. Exhibit A, I think, is the Second Avenue subway, a project that sometimes seems to have had more stops and starts than the number 6 local in the Bronx. This photo shows Governor Rockefeller, Mayor Lindsay, and others breaking ground on the Second Avenue subway in 1972. Rit, as you can see, the ties were a lot wider in those days, and so were the sideburns. The story of the Second Avenue subway, I think, is familiar to most of us here today. How the deep fiscal cuts of the 70s put it in limbo, and how even after Dick Ravitch, who's an RPA director, as you know, and others historically rescued the MTA, the focus was necessarily on maintaining what we had rather than expanding on it. Now, it's certainly good news that last month when work resumed on this project, no question about it, it's better to be building than not building. But the photo behind me, I think, is evidence that, like the road to heaven, the subway tunnel beneath Second Avenue could still wind up being paved with good intentions and not much more. And the reason that this project ground to a halt 35 years ago is that there's no dedicated source of revenue to see it through to completion. Do you know what? Today, there still is no dedicated source of revenue to see it through to its completion. Funding for phase 1 of this project, the leg running from 96th Street to 63rd Street, is still almost $1 billion